Tobago Updates Morning Show. You're viewing us here live in Portmore, Scarborough, Tobago. For those of you who are just joining us, my name is Dwayne, and we are here joined with the political leader of the IDA, Mrs. Denise Tsoisfatt Angus, who will be here to share with us about the elections on Monday gone. Good morning and welcome to you.
Good morning.
All right. The pleasure is all ours to have you, Miss Angus. Miss Angus, I want to begin by asking you, do you think or see that did you face any challenges on the day of election itself at all with your two candidates?
No, we didn't face any challenges. However, I received in my mailbox the ballot paper from my deceased neighbor who has been gone 5 years now.
Ooh.
And so her, what do you call that, the polling card came to my mailbox.
Wow.
So I think the EBC really needs to do some work in cleaning up their list.
And while we are on the topic of EBC, do you repose any confidence in the EBC at all in all of its processes? Before the election, we saw just before the then Prime Minister Dr. Rowley would have got a report from the EBC indicating the changes and additions to polling divisions across the country. Do you see this as a mechanism that would, in your view, reduce your confidence in EBC at all?
Well, the challenge we have is that the EBC is a state agency like any other, and we have to accept that the state agencies right now, not just the EBC, but many of them are falling short of the expectations of the people.
And the expectation is that the independence that they sought out.
The independence, yes, their efficiency, the effectiveness, and therefore we have to take stock of that. Those agencies need to take stock because they were created in the first place, number one, to be independent, number two, to be more efficient than the public service. And so we would expect that those things would be done. I know that elections have been, 5 years from a general election, and therefore we would have expected those lists to be cleaned up in preparation for the upcoming election. Granted, they may have thought they had a few more months, but still I think they need to be put on notice that snap elections seem to be the order of the day. So they need to be prepared at any point in time.
All right, thank you for that. You will have posited two candidates for the East and West for the general elections. What was your strategy in the choice of your candidates in terms of why you chose them and so on?
Well, we chose our candidates by listening to the people. The people want to see themselves in the candidates. And so we chose persons of a balance of male, female. We were the only ones that put forward a balance of male and female. We put forward a balance of youth and maturity, of talent and, of raw talent, somebody who has created themselves as experts with their talent versus someone who is a university graduate. And so we felt that the combination was important so that any member of society can see themselves in that person, in the team. And so that is why we would have put forward that activity of youth and maturity, female, male.
Manifestos and now called mandates are a part of any political campaign. What are some of the most notable policy projections coming from your party as it pertains to your manifesto or your mandate, as you would want to term it?
Okay, so we needed to be, and this is where the electorate was being confused and was confused, and we are, the idea attempted to educate the electorate about that the member of parliament, they are the ones who go down there. They're dealing with the laws. They're dealing with, being part of approval of a budget in the House, and being the oversight for the cabinet, and unbiased oversight. And so when we talk about policies, because we have a Tobago House of Assembly in Tobago, it's different from when you have an MP running in Trinidad who could talk about policies of the central government.
Right. That
Right?
would affect Tobago's development.
Right. But when we advocated for strongly is, number one, a reform of the national constitution. Number two, inclusion of a bill of community rights. Number three, many other pieces of legislation that did not take Tobago's uniqueness into consideration. For example, the Wildlife Act, where you have endangered species in Trinidad, are considered pests in Tobago and are creating havoc for the farmers here in Tobago, and that has to absolutely be reviewed. There are a number of other pieces of legislation, but those would have been expected to come over time. So the overall policy is to make sure that any law, past or present, has Tobago's uniqueness identified in it and taken care of, and also, the national constitution.
Just remind the viewers, is this your third stint at an election, or your second stint?
Well, I entered as an independent in 2020.
Yes.
And in 2021, the party entered into the Tobago House of Assembly elections. This is the first general election we're into. Yes.
So how would you describe your overall reaction to the results, particularly with your candidates receiving 140 votes across the East and West seats?
You had to listen to the people. And so you have to take into consideration all candidates receiving 143 in comparison to the overall. You had over 5,000 people who decided to stay home. I mean, this is one of the lowest voter turnouts we have ever had in this country, in this island. So I don't think you can just look at that in isolation, because yes, first past the post has won us, but did we really win as a people? What message were the people sending when they say we're not coming out? And this is something we picked up while we were canvassing on the ground and campaigning. A high rate of persons saying, not me, not this time, we're not coming out, makes no sense. A lot of voter apathy.
I understand that. But given your results at the polls, would you say, and the overall results of the election, especially here in Tobago, would you say that the people have spoken as to who they prefer to represent them down in Parliament, being their respective MPs? And what does this mean for IDA? Would IDA continue? Would IDA reform? Would they go and do introspection, regroup, and come out stronger? Or is this a death sentence of the IDA?
Absolutely not a death sentence. You have to understand the Tobago electorate, and the Tobago electorate, once they make a decision, they're going to regroup, get families together, and follow through on that decision. That election had nothing to do with IDA, and had everything to do with people not feeling the incumbents dealt with their needs enough to be given a third term. Okay? People also voted for a back pay and for a raise in salaries. So your election is not just about who won or whatever. You have to look at the climate, you have to look at the messages, you have to look at the mood of the people and understand what the people are saying. So this election was not about IDA. and ID's numbers. But this election, people voted with purpose and they stayed home with purpose, because those who stayed home were either persons who felt that their own parties had failed them and they couldn't bring themselves to vote for the others. And they did not want to become embroiled in the whole election. So, and general election is different
from THA.
THA.
Yes. And before I even get to THA election and in terms of your preparation and planning for it, how would you deal with the notion or the narrative in this space that I feel in parties they are but a subset of the PNM trying to divide votes to their advantage? How would you respond to that?
Well, was A&R Robinson, when he left the PNM, just a party trying to divide votes, or somebody who was committed to finding a better way for the people? You have a number of people who left the PNM. You have Natisha Charles Panton, you have Nutsi, yes, of course, I left. So, to just say we left, I am the only one who left and I am, what a subset of the PNM, then it happens. I mean, Ho Choi Charles was a part of the PNM Youth League. So we have to move past that, yes, and start getting into mature politics, understanding what the person brings forward. If it is the same type of policies, then maybe, but I quite assure you, I don't bring forward the same set of policies of anyone where I came from, because over time, I like to study data. We have had data which has to take us in a totally different direction if Tobago is to survive in the crisis that is happening in the country and right here in Tobago. The economy is on a slippery slope, And if we don't take stock of it, it's going to be, very bad. I hear people talk about the fact that, well, Trinidad wasn't giving us, the monies. And I am saying, this administration has received the most money ever. If you bring $100 to a mother, $100 a week to a mother, and everybody knows $100 a week cannot do anything, right? So you don't have enough to begin with. If you bring that $100 to a week a mother, that mother, guaranteed, is going to find a way to feed the children in her house, feed some children in the neighbor house, yes, and still put aside a cent to save, to build up. So I don't subscribe to, they didn't give us enough. You got what you got, and therefore you have to prioritize and make sure the children are fed and make sure you put away some, you invest some, and that is how we go forward. But there will never be enough.
Yeah. But do you believe that from 2015 till currently that the Tobago House of Assembly has been getting enough? And if that is, whether that is your belief or not, should your candidates have won the election, would that have been one of the things that they would have been lobbying for on behalf of Tobago if they went down to Parliament?
So for the last 60 odd years, we have never gotten enough. Yeah? So let's put that out there.
Let's put that out there. Based on your previous utterance about you don't subscribe to it being enough.
Correct.
Yeah.
So for the last umpteen years, it's never been enough. Yeah? But we found ways to build a shopper complex, build a financial center, build schools, build community centers with what you have. Yeah? Yes, more could have been done. But currently, there's more, and we still have not seen the level of development with what we got. And so, yes, my candidates would have been advocating, because it's not just about getting more money. Yeah? we're advocating to be part of the development trust of the country, that we're recognized that we could be a serious pillar of development and diversification for the country. And therefore, there has to be an adult conversation about how Tobago is treated in the development budget versus how you're treated in a recurrent budget. Yes?
Yeah.
And that is a conversation that they would have had and that we still advocate for. But it's a conversation as part of a bigger framework of not just autonomy, but the national constitution reform. Because we look at it and you can say the voter apathy that we're seeing is because people don't feel they are part of the process. If people feel they are part of the process, then they will, become involved. And so at the level of the national, I look at how many seats are there now, and you ask yourself, is everyone going to be put into cabinet? Where's the oversight going to come from? And so they need to move into a Senate that maybe is an elected Senate where the people could feel that they have a true voice within the corridors of power. We need to have a system that is of a true Westminster system. We do not have a Westminster system in our parliament because our parliament is of cabinet dominance over the parliament. In a true Westminster system, it is parliament that dominates cabinet, meaning there's a larger body of persons who sit in the parliament and a smaller cabinet, so there's enough oversight to ensure the protection of the people and the protection of, the purse of the
Yeah,
people.
we do have a Westminster style cabinet, but true Westminster is in the UK.
We don't even have a Westminster style. Because when you look at Westminster style, in the UK, you have way more persons who sit in the parliament than those persons who sit in a cabinet. Right now, we would have more people in a cabinet than sitting in the parliament. And whenever you have that, that is autocracy at its best. And that is why, the last regime lost, because they really worked it to the max. We are in charge, we're going to do whatever. And so if this, if the UNC coming in, they are not mindful of that, they too will fall into the same trap of autocracy. And so it's really up to the people to demand national constitution reform. And I know that one of the big questions out there is, well, if the UNC already has so many seats, do they really need the Tobago seats? Will they be ignored, in there?
Well, I did see and I did hear that the incoming Prime Minister, Kamala Prasad, is expressing her willingness to work with the Tobagos, the two Tobagos MPs coming. But my question is though, how did you feel when you saw that the PNM was unseated, and how did you feel when Kamala Prasad became Prime Minister?
Well, you have to listen to the will of the people. It's not up to us as politicians. You have to listen to the will of the people.
And you believe
this
that
is
given the fact that she won, that her campaign emanated the fact that she is indeed listening. Were you of that view?
Well, oftentimes people vote against, People vote against, yes? And so what they were voting against is the performance of the last administration. People felt that the last administration was not listening to them. Look how many people crossed the floor. Either way, yes, on both sides. Yeah, but it became, who did we feel that we were more against, and we wanted to teach a lesson. And that is how persons operate within the electoral process. And so you have to accept that. And so Another one of the questions that people are concerned about is whether they will now rush the autonomy bill. But I dare say that with the number of seats that they have, they will still have to have a couple of seats from across the floor within the PNM camp to be able to pass the autonomy bill.
Yeah.
So you still
No,
have to
is
go
it
about
the
being
if I'm not
collaborative.
if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong. This requires a special majority, and a special majority is how much?
31 seats.
31.
Yes.
Okay.
You need three-fourths, 31
All right.
seats.
All right. Well, guys, we want to take a break and come back to Miss Angus. We have been having a very fruitful discussion about the election, her results, and the overarching results coming from the general elections that occurred on Monday. So stay tuned and remember to share the live, share the live, share the live. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Youth Wednesdays on Tobago Updates Morning Show. You're viewing us here live in Port Moresby, Tobago. We are continuing the discussion with political leader of IDA, Mrs. Denise Tsoisfatt Angus. We are discussing everything about the election, including IDA's performance at the polls. So, Mrs. Angus, sorry, we have been discussing offset about autonomy. But before I get there, you mentioned that you have intentions of contesting the THA election, upcoming THA election, which is just is under 5 months in terms of preparation.
Of course. I mean, we have to give the people hope. This is what democracy is all about. I mean, I applaud all of those candidates who entered the race. I mean, it says something to the incumbents, yeah, that clearly your performance is under scrutiny such that people feel there's a gap in terms of entering the race. But at the same time, it's not the first one that we have run. We've been around for some time, and you don't just give up. You don't just give up, especially if you believe that there's a purpose for you and that, you just don't give up.
And this is and are you going to remain political leader? Given the fact that the political leader is what often shapes the trajectory of the party, comes up with the strategies and so on. Mobilize the membership of the party, right, in terms of putting forward candidates and so on, and giving that hope to the population to solicit their votes. Do you?
That may be how political leaders operate in different parties, but in our party, we are governed by our people. Yes, we have brought our people into the process and they feed us information. They are part of the planning. Yes, so we don't have, the autocracy that exists elsewhere, because we feel that, if you are to govern, then if you are to govern with not being autocratic, then you have to practice that in your party, else you're going to go into governance doing the same thing.
Right. And this is and your membership has signaled to you that despite the results of the previous and current elections, that they still want to have you leading them to the polls for THA elections.
Of course, and you'll be the first to know if they decide anywhere otherwise, But at the end of the day, you have to recognize that we went into the elections in 2021 where we were just 4 months old. Yes? So you can't just take things in isolation, and you have to take things as a whole.
Right.
So
what specific steps will IDA be taken to regroup and to rebuild and even strategize, especially for the upcoming THA elections?
Well, you will have to mobilize and wait, meet with the persons in your grouping and wait and see. But the idea has taken a role in educating our people. because we feel that you have to have an educated and informed electorate about where Tobago can go, the challenges that Tobago is seeing right now with the economy in crisis, and why it's not going to get any better unless we do different things. And so we have had a program online, the Tobago Legislative Series, every Thursday for the last 2.5 years. Anyone is invited. We have had persons from different political parties come in, persons who, even your father would have presented on that program for us. So we have been quite open, unbiased in that program, and we're willing to engage any person from any political party, and we've had them from all political parties attend those activities depending on which area they feel a special interest is in, whether it's crime, whether it's education, whether it's tourism. We've had a slew of discussions on the different areas and how do we formulate Tobago going forward, because Tobago is not just about me, it's not just about you. Tobago is about all of us. And if we are not prepared to get the views of different, entities and different political parties and different people, because the average person also attend online. If we are not prepared to garner those views and then create something, then, it's still about me. It's still about my ideas. It's still not about you. And so this is why we have that program just about every single week, pulling together the ideas, listening to people, listening to their views, listening to their woes, their pains. And coming out of that now, we are beginning to formulate and key piece, using data. Data is very, very important. We, in the past, continue to just make decisions about, let's do this, let's do that, not looking at the data to guide us down a particular road that we can get the results, the measured results that we need in terms of taking the Tobago economy to another level. And let me tell you, it is critical that we must do this now. Why? Because we have seen that oil is not taking us anywhere. The last administration took us up from about 18,000 GDP per capita down to they left it at 14,400. So clearly oil is not the answer, with the decreasing oil prices, with the dragon gas deal, flat on its belly, and with the tariffs that are being threatened internationally. It means that Tobago has to be in a position that it now begins to think innovatively about what can we do, what assets can we treat with here. And I'm not talking about oil and gas. There are many other countries, Caribbean countries, that don't have oil and gas, but they are doing way better than even Trinidad and Tobago. We're not even talking just Tobago. And so this is where we have to begin looking at our assets, determining how best to maximize those assets and for us to move forward as a people. And the greatest way right now is to ensure that we empower communities, right, with the resources, with the authority, with the responsibility to start monetizing assets in their backyards and to begin truly developing themselves, shaping their own destiny.
Right, I don't mean to cut you, but we have but a couple seconds left, unfortunately. Yes, time does fly.
Time flies.
But my question to you, and it's a compound question, the TPP would have won their 2 seats in the Tobago East and West. Do you foresee any alliances? And what is your take on, them winning their 2 seats? Given that you have been saying repeatedly during your interview this morning that it's all about listening to the people, right? And the people does respond through their votes. And given the fact that the TPP would have won, do you see any future alliances with them, especially how they campaign and the things that they campaign on?
You mean with the MPs?
With the entire party
Yes.
itself.
Well, I think we have to distinguish MPs from the Tobago House of Assembly. Okay?
Well, I'm talking about the
Right.
party itself.
So the MPs, no, once you're an MP, there's no party. Let's get that clear. Yes? You're member of parliament for the people of Tobago. Once you're an MP, get the idea of party out of your head. And that is where we continue to fail in terms of our ideologies. They are MPs.
Right.
I am willing to have conversations with those MPs and get them to champion what needs to happen down in parliament. So I'm willing to have that conversation with them. You know, additionally, I am going to request that the chief secretary, and again, let's take party out of it, the chief secretary has a responsibility now to call all of the parties and individuals who got into the last election, call everyone together, the platform of political parties, and have us roll out to the people, go back to the people and bring experts on board and go back to the people in a quick round of getting the people involved in a modern framework for our autonomy that they then take to parliament to get passed. And why I say get all of, we are going to have to lead that process in Tobago because you have to bring all of the political parties together. PNM, IDA, you know, PDP, whomsoever, all. And the independence. And from there, once you begin to do that and you get it actually done, the framework done, the new one done, you then take it to the legislature, get it approved there, and send it to Trinidad. I don't know that any of those in Trinidad will not deal with that if it comes down to there through a right process. If they don't, we have the option of going legally and politically with the people of Tobago to say this is what we want. And so I've given you what my solutions were, and it's written in our little brochure that we had clearly. So anyone, you know, y'all can take it and follow it as you usually do.
All right, so I want to thank
Thank you.
Ms. Angus for joining us this morning, political leader of the IDA, for sharing with us this morning. We want to go and take a quick break. Up next, we have Mr. Jovan Seeley, moderator of the Tobago Fashion Code 7. Forgive me, Jovel Seeley. We'll be right back. Just remember to share the live, share the live, share the live.